The headline screamed that America was the aggressor. Al Jazeera said the strikes could derail peace talks. Analysts warned of retaliation. Critics inside the United States called it reckless. And the global media,
I have a feeling, I may be wrong and I may be right, but I'm right a lot. I have a feeling that it was a mistake made by somebody that shouldn't have been doing what they did.
ran wall-to-wall coverage of Iranian claims that their forces had shot down an American drone and reserved the right to respond. That was the story. Here is what actually happened when the United States struck. 2 Iranian boats were caught actively laying naval mines in the Strait of Hormuz, not preparing to lay mines, not positioning near the strait, actively emplacing explosive devices in one of the world's most critical shipping lanes during a ceasefire that required the strait to remain open. And a surface-to-air missile site in Bandar Abbas was locked onto American aircraft, not tracking, not monitoring, locking on, preparing to fire. The United States destroyed the boats, destroyed the missile site, and the world called America the aggressor. Iran was mining the waterway it agreed to leave open. Iran was locking missiles onto American aircraft, and Iran called the response a ceasefire violation. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly who is protecting the global economy and exactly who is holding it hostage. Welcome to Your World Exposed, where we take the story the mainstream gives you and show you the side they deliberately left out. If you want to understand what is actually happening in the world, subscribe right now and hit the notification bell. Drop a comment below when this is done. We read every single one. Let us get into it. To understand what is happening right now, you need to understand what the Strait of Hormuz actually is, because the mainstream covers it like a geographic footnote. This is not a footnote, it is the single most important waterway on Earth. The Strait of Hormuz sits at the entry point to the Persian Gulf. At its narrowest point, the navigable shipping channel is 2 miles wide in each direction. 2 miles. Through those 2 miles, 20 million barrels of oil flow every single day. Nearly 20% of all the petroleum consumed on Earth. 20% of all globally traded liquefied natural gas. Before this conflict began, approximately 3,000 vessels used the strait every single month. Tankers carrying oil to Japan, South Korea, China, India. LNG carriers heading to Europe and Southeast Asia. The arteries of the global economy running through a 2-mile gap. When Iran first declared the strait closed in early 2026, following the U.S. and Israeli strike on Iranian military and nuclear infrastructure, the consequences were immediate and catastrophic. Brent crude surged toward $120 a barrel. The International Energy Agency emergency released 400 million barrels of strategic reserve just to stabilize markets. Saudi Aramco's Ras Tanura refinery was struck by Iranian drones. Qatar declared force majeure on its LNG exports. Countries across Southeast Asia watched their oil stockpiles fall from 57 days of supply to 45 within a single month. One waterway, 2 miles wide, and the global economy hangs on what happens inside it. So here's the question the mainstream never asks. When Iran sends boats into the waterway to lay mines, explosive devices designed to sink the ships that feed the world's economy, what exactly is the United States supposed to do? According to the mainstream, apparently, the answer is nothing. Talk more, negotiate harder, show restraint, allow the mining of the world's most critical waterway to continue while diplomats meet at Doha? That is not restraint, that is surrender. Let us talk about what the strikes on May 25th actually targeted. The U.S. military confirmed the targets through U.S. Central Command, Iranian missile launch sites, Iranian boats actively emplacing mines. These were not civilian targets. They were not symbolic. They were active military operations conducted by Iranian forces against international shipping and American military personnel. During a ceasefire Iran had already been violating repeatedly. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said it directly and without diplomatic ambiguity. The Strait of Hormuz has to be open one way or the other. 4 words, one way or the other. That is not aggression. That is a statement of strategic reality that every nation on Earth that depends on imported energy should be grateful someone is willing to make. Consider who flows through that strait. China and India together receive 44% of all crude oil exported through Hormuz in 2025. Not American oil, Chinese and Indian oil. The energy that powers the factories of the world's second and third largest economies. The fuel that keeps the lights on for 2.5 billion people. Japan, South Korea, Southeast Asia, all dependent, all watching, all privately grateful that someone stopped the boats with the mines. Let us address the ceasefire question directly, because this is the center of the mainstream criticism. The ceasefire that went into effect on April 8th was always fragile. Iran's own Supreme National Security Council called it a tactical pause, not a settlement, not an end to conflict, a pause. The IRGC continued operating in the Gulf after that date. Iranian vessels continued harassing commercial shipping. The mines near Bandar Abbas were not a ceasefire anomaly. They were the continuation of a systematic Iranian strategy to control the strait. And this was not the first time. Before the ceasefire, U.S. forces destroyed 16 Iranian mine-laying vessels near the strait after Trump warned Iran publicly to remove them. Before that, 10 active mine-laying vessels had already been destroyed. That is 26 boats engaged in mining operations before the one that triggered the May 25th strikes. After the ceasefire on May 4th, the IRGC sent a flotilla of small boats toward U.S. Navy vessels escorting commercial ships through the strait. American forces destroyed 6 of those boats in self-defense, and then on May 25th, 2 more mine-laying boats, actively emplacing mines during a ceasefire, destroyed. U.S. Central Command was explicit every single time. The ceasefire was still going on. American forces acted with restraint. They struck what needed to be struck and stopped. America did not start this. Iran mined an international waterway and called anyone who tried to stop them an aggressor. Now, let us zoom out, because what the United States is doing in the Gulf in 2026 is not simply responding to Iranian provocations one boat at a time. It is executing a long-term strategy to establish permanent freedom of navigation through the world's most critical energy choke point. And in doing so, to position American naval power as the indispensable guarantor of global energy security for every nation on Earth. Think about what that means in practice. Every nation that imports energy through the strait depends on that waterway being open. Their economies, their governments, their social stability all depend on tankers moving safely through those 2 miles. So who keeps it open? The UN? Russia and China will veto anything that moves. NATO? They barely have a presence in the Gulf. The regional powers? Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE were getting hit by Iranian drones themselves. There's only one answer: the United States Navy. Striking mine-laying boats, destroying missile sites, escorting commercial shipping, maintaining the flow of energy the global economy depends on. Now, let us look at what happens if America does not act, because the mainstream only criticizes the strikes that happen. It never examines what the world looks like if those strikes do not. If the mine-laying boats are not struck, Iran successfully displaces mines throughout the shipping channels near Bandar Abbas. Tankers begin hitting those mines. Sailors die, ships sink, insurance costs spike to levels that make Gulf shipping economically impossible. The strait effectively closes, not through Iranian declaration, but through economic reality. 20 million barrels per day stop flowing. Brent crude, already at $120 during initial closure, heads towards $150. Then higher. Gas prices in Europe become politically destabilizing. Japan and South Korea declare energy emergencies. India faces an economic shock that threatens the world's most popular democracy. And who benefits? Russia. Immediately, and enormously. Every dollar oil prices rise above 100 is additional revenue for the Kremlin's war machine. Every tanker that cannot pass through Hormuz is a customer looking for alternative supply, which means Russian oil at whatever price Moscow chooses to charge. The American strikes near Bandar Abbas were not aggression. They were a direct intervention against a scenario that would have made Russia richer, made the developing world poorer, and made the global economy significantly more fragile. Now let us talk honestly about the complications, because this channel does not do propaganda and a complete picture requires honesty. The strike did carry real diplomatic risk. Iran's IRGC reserved what is called the right to retaliate. With negotiations ongoing in Doha, any Iranian decision to respond militarily could derail talks entirely. Analysts have cautioned that while the strikes were limited, Iran could choose to respond in ways that cut off negotiations rather than continuing them. That risk is real. The ceasefire is fragile. The talk in Islamabad and Doha are genuinely uncertain. And the broader humanitarian dimension of this conflict is serious. Iranian civilians are experiencing the consequences of a war their government chose, but they did not. That's not a small consideration. There are real constraints. Any honest analyst has to include them. But here's the full picture that the mainstream refuses to complete. Iran did not close the Strait of Hormuz because of American aggression. Iran closed it because its government chose to use the world's most critical energy waterway as a hostage. Iran mined international shipping lanes. Iran attacked Saudi oil infrastructure. Iran targeted commercial vessels. Iran threatened to burn any ship attempting to pass. The United States did not create this crisis. It responded to it. And the response? Self-defense strikes on mine-laying boats and missile sites, with explicit acknowledgement of the ceasefire and continued diplomacy. Is the response of a nation that understands the difference between the tools of war and the goals of peace. Since 1987, when the United States launched Operation Earnest Will to protect oil tankers from Iranian attacks during the Iran-Iraq War, America has served as the guarantor of freedom for navigation in the Persian Gulf. Not because of imperial ambition, because of a recognition that the global economy requires open sea lanes and that no other nation has both the capability and the commitment to keep them open. That mission has not changed in 2026. The threats are more sophisticated. The stakes are higher. The diplomatic complexity is greater, but the fundamental reality is the same. When Iran sends boats to mine the Strait of Hormuz, the United States destroys them. Not because America wants war, because the alternative is a world in which Iran can hold the global economy hostage through a 2-mile waterway. Every country that got its oil shipment this week because those mine-laying boats were stopped. They may not say thank you, but they know what happened. The mainstream called it aggression. The world called it Tuesday. This is your world exposed. The story is never what they tell you it is. If this changed how you see the U.S. strikes and who is actually protecting the global economy right now, drop a comment below. Tell us, should America keep patrolling the strait, or should it pull back and let the world figure it out? We want to hear where you stand, and do not forget to hit subscribe because we're just getting started.